Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I am answering one of your questions. A lot of times people ask me, who is in my circle? To get all of the things done that I get done on a regular basis, I sat down and did my best to list out the types of relationships that I have and where are they. And in terms of relationships, I'm talking about the circle that helps me do my work, optimize my efficiency, take care of my health, all of the things. I've broken it down into my professional circle, beauty and health, my home, and personal. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about where I found everyone, how I build trust, and when I make referrals. If you are someone who's in my network, you know that I love making referrals. I love connecting dope people with dope people, and I've worked really hard to do it throughout my life. I can't even say throughout the span of my career. So let's kick it off talking about my professional circle. So these are all of the people and agencies that help me run my business. I was honestly shocked by this list, and I just added someone a moment ago when I was talking to my team. So first and foremost, I generally have a business coach who I'm working with. Currently, I'm in a year-long program. I have bi-weekly calls with the coach and quarterly intensives where I'm talking about various topics on how to improve revenue in my business. I also have a financial team, which is who I almost forgot. Like, how can you forget your accountant and financial advisor? Because managing money is so important. And recently have a new team. One of the things I've realized about your financial team is as you grow, that team needs to grow with you, making sure that someone is aligned with where you want to go, in addition to where you are. When I worked full time and I was running my business, that was one person who I had. As things changed and the revenue changed in my business, I needed a different type of team. So I recently moved to a new person there. I also have photographers and videographers. Obviously, y'all know this is being shot right now by Eric Bates. He's tagged in almost everything that I do as of recent. He's dancing behind the camera right now. But I have teams in New York, New Jersey, and Atlanta, which is really important to me. I think that when you're thinking about photo, video, content as an entrepreneur, business owner, it's important to have multiple people in multiple cities, just in case someone can't come to you or you're someplace that you know you go a lot and you want to get some content. I like to have people in the cities that I'm in the most. I also have a phenomenal assistant. If you've done any work with me, you have spoke with Laura. She has been with me for over a year now. I have a data analyst for some of my corporate clients who I've worked with. I have a publicist. I'm not currently in retainer right now, but during times where I'm pushing something new, I 100% have a publicist. So when you saw my book tour last year, that was the publicist's work. She had me working. I also have makeup artists. And again, I have these in all the cities that I travel to because your girl can't do makeup. This is not me at all. I have one person who I've worked with since 2016, but I have backups just in case. I also have a stylist. This is actually an outfit that I did not want to wear, but Germany G said that it worked. So I'm wearing it and trusting her. Apparently it looks nice on camera. But she helps get me dressed for any special occasions. I have a lawyer. I have a book agent. I have podcast production. You're watching an Insta podcast production right here, right now. I have a technology assistant, so I'm not spending time connecting things behind the scenes. I have consultants who help me with my clients on occasion. I also have a book editor. I have DJs. I have an event planner. And then I also have a fake team. And by fake team, I mean that sometimes I use email aliases to respond to different clients for different things. So a fun fact, early on in my business, when I did not have assistants, I wanted to make sure that I could go after invoices more aggressively that were unpaid, but not ruin the relationship and kind of muddy the waters. Because when you're talking about having those lovely conversations and then you're like, hey, can you pay that invoice? It was easier to come from another email account. So I have an alias on my account of someone who will go after invoices when they are late. So I can be the bubbly personality who's doing all the things, and that person can go get the money. That's my professional team, which I was shocked that I had so many people on there. So in terms of beauty and health, this is probably maybe my favorite area. I have, of course, my primary care doctor. I hate going to the dentist, but I have one. I have neuro stuff because I think I mentioned in one of my podcasts that I had neurosurgery last year. So I have a surgeon, and I also have a neurologist who I talk to on a regular cadence. I have a therapist who I see weekly, and I rarely miss a session. I have a massage therapist because, these old bones, old muscles, like you need someone to work it out. I think sometimes it's for relaxation, but sometimes it's for healing. I've fallen before and needed some help, and massage therapy has helped combat some of those issues. I also have a nail tech who does my nails, and I'm very particular about my nails. You can probably see they're generally always done. I have a nail salon I go to, and I have an esthetician for facials. So I love all things beauty. For my home, I have a cleaning team who comes bi-weekly. I have a handyman because I'm pretty handy on my own accord. However, the whole measuring and putting furniture together thing doesn't really work for me. Getting my closets edited, I have someone who comes and helps with that. And I also have a real estate agent, someone who I work with when I want to look at properties or I've purchased in the past. The last section I would say is personal. And something that I heard Nedra Tawwab Glover say recently is that you need to sometimes spread your relationships out. Like no one person should be everything. So I've worked really hard to cultivate a close circle, an intimate circle, but there's enough people in it where I can spread around my needs when I have them. So I have close friends who I've gathered from college, from work, business. I always say the internet too. I have friends who I met back in 2010, 2011 when I was blogging, and I was blogging not even under my real name. So there's people who knew me before I was even okay with being open and public on the internet and saying this was who I was. I had an alias that I used when I used to blog about fitness and health and wellness. I'm also known to slide in DMs. I think a lot of my good friends who may be listening would laugh and say that I could have slid in their DMs. If I see someone doing something really cool and I want to build a relationship with them, I will 100% reach out and ask if they want to hop on a call to grab a virtual coffee or meet in a city if I'm there to build a relationship. And I've met some really great people that way. My godmother is my best friend in the entire world. She's my trusted advisor. She texts me every single day and will send me the eye emoji if I don't reply in time. I have friends of friends from masterminds. I also have an intuitive healer who I work with. And of course, I've got my family. I think that probably was about 10 minutes of me listing everyone in my life. But I realized that in order for me to be who I am, to do what I need to do, and to support myself, that I can't do all of the things all the time. And these people may not always be in my life for like every single week or sometimes not even once a month. Like my technology assistant, I call them when I need them, which is maybe twice a year. Sometimes when we think about help, we feel like, especially as a business owner, or even in a 9-to-5, when you're building out your career, you think that you need people who are going to be there all the time, every single day. But what I've learned as I look at my circle is that it is a culmination of the life experience that I have and where I need assistance and where people need to be interjected. And that may not necessarily be at a regular cadence. And when I think about where I found everyone, I think I am constantly looking for people to connect with, either just out of interest, for meeting new people, making new connections, for friends, or to optimize things that are happening in my business. We talked about networking a lot in our episode with Lenny Williams this season. And I remember he said I think he came from like his grandparents had like 27 kids. So he's been networking his whole life. And he was just used to going to family barbecues and talking to everyone all the time. That's how I approach networking. And I think about, I find people online. I ask for introductions, the professional associations that I'm a part of, friends of friends. And I've met so many amazing people through masterminds and business coaching programs that are still friends of mine to this day who I talk to at a regular cadence. But I think as we're talking about who's in our circle, someone could easily say, Kim, like you have a lot of people. How do you trust them? Do you trust them? Like, how did you build this? And when I think about building trust, the first thing is understanding what your needs are. And anyone who's coming into your life, like what are your needs of that person? And I don't want you to think of it from a selfish perspective of like, what can you take? What do you need? How can they feed into you? But the reality is we have relationships and they fill something within us, right? So what is the need that you have, whether it's personal, whether it's professional? And then as you're looking at the person, what is their zone of genius? What is that person, that agency really good at? I'm a big believer in that you work with people when they are in their zone of genius, especially when we're talking about contractors, hiring staff, hiring employees. What is that person's zone of genius? And are they working in that zone of genius in their interactions with you? When someone is not working in their zone of genius, that is generally where problems lie. When people are being stretched to a place that they may not be interested in going, they may not have gone before, they may not be capable of, and that's no shade. Everybody has their own capabilities, right? But I always ask, am I interacting with them in their zone of genius? Even as we think about personal relationships, right? I have girlfriends who, when I have a business issue, I know I can call them. I have girlfriends where if it's a relationship issue, I know I am not calling them. I have people where if I want to talk about my health and fitness, I have good people to talk to there. Think about it from that perspective. Everyone has a zone of genius. It's just figuring out what it is and how it aligns with you. The next thing when I think about building trust is their standard of excellence like mine? Now, this is hard. It's hard for me even to record this with my team in my room because I think everybody's interfaced with me when I've liked things and when I haven't liked things. So it's understanding what is someone's level of excellence. So what does, especially for employees, like what does a finished product look like? Is what they're supplying you what you need? Is how they deliver it to you up to your expectations? Again, when you're connecting with people, whether it's how your friends show up for you or how someone on your team puts together a meeting agenda, when there's not congruency there, that's where discord happens. It's what do they feel is done? What is their standard of excellence? Because for some people, it just may not be as high as yours. I remember years ago, I had an event and I hired a team to help me with the event. And I was getting video services done. The video came back and it was not high definition. I assumed very easily that if you're going to be coming to record an event, it's going to be in high definition, period. They did not think so. They said that how they did their business was they did not record in high def for those things. That was not an excellence match. So for me, it's really important to understand what is the standard that I'm looking for and are we aligned in that way? Also, talk about flawless execution. So this, y'all may get me for this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. A question I ask myself is how inconvenienced am I in this situation? Where does your work end and mine begin? I think especially as we're talking about employees, any service providers in your life, it's important to understand like what is your role in that relationship? Are you looking for someone to do something completely on their own and they give it to you and it is done data? Or do you have a part in it? What is your part in what you're doing? And this is, we're not going to put personal relationships in this category, really. We're really talking more about hiring service providers who you're talking to. What are they responsible for? And last but not least, when we talk about building trust, it's what happens when things go wrong, because it's inevitable that mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. You are two people working together in any relationship of someone in your circle. It is very rare that everything will be perfect. How does the person deal when things go wrong? Is it you have a conversation, you sit down, you talk about it? Does someone act like it never happened and they just brush it under the rug? How do they make up for it? With service providers, are you getting money back? Or are they going to redo the task for you? What does it look like when things go wrong? Because they will. And what does that communication look like? And I think especially when we're talking about hiring, I always make sure I have a backup person. Life happens. Someone's kid could be sick. Someone's car could break down. I always like to make sure I have a backup person just in case life happens. And before we come to a close today, the question I always get is like, how do you make referrals? Who do you make referrals to? And I think for me, there's two types of referrals, and it's always based upon relationship building. In order for me to refer someone, I always like to make sure that I can vouch for their work quality. How was their experience with me? And I also like to make sure that I'm radically honest about what my experience was in terms of that person's strengths and their weaknesses, because I believe there is nothing worse than hiring someone or bringing someone into your life and they're in there and you see that they're not showing up in the way you expected, and you reach back out to the person who referred you like, oh yeah, I had that same issue. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me? So when someone reaches out to me for referrals, I generally say, this is how I've worked with them. This is what I absolutely loved. And this is where I think things could have been a little bit better. Go forth as you wish. And the longer and stronger the relationship is, the better the referral happens. For me, I think I've been burned a few times in the workplace with referring employees, and I've also been burned in my business. So I don't necessarily make referrals as easy or as fast. You'll note I don't think I really shouted out anyone who wasn't involved with this season of the podcast in terms of making those referrals. If you're part of some of my communities, I share a little bit more in depth. But if you pay attention, you can generally see who I work with. So before we close today, I want you to think about what is the level of support that you need in your life, in your career, in your business. A while ago, I used to feel really nervous about sharing how many people I had in my life helping me do things or what I spent my money on to make my life run easier. And people would say, oh my gosh, that's too much. Like, I don't understand why you do that. You could do that yourself, or you could do this here. And it's never, when you're adding people to your circle, it's never about what's too much or too little. It's what do you need? What makes you feel good? What supports the life that you desire? So as you're thinking about your circle, think about it from your personal, from professional, your career, your business, all of it. What are the relationships you need? What are the services that would help you live a life of ease, right? Everyone wants to live the soft life. And we can. It's just what matters to you. And what matters to me may be a little bit different for you and vice versa. And that's absolutely fine. Your circle is what you need in order to thrive. So with that, may your next move be your very best move.